Well, after a 500-day deadlock and 3 unprecedented elections in 1 year, Israel has successfully formed a government through an agreement between Benjamin Netanyahu and his political rival Benny Gantz. Now, joining me now to discuss from Israel the implications is former Long Islander and former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, David Rubin, who just came out with a new book titled Trump and the Jews. Thank you so much, Mayor Rubin, for taking the time and talking with us. So this is a new agreement between Netanyahu and Gantz. They were political rivals, seemingly philosophically opposed to each other. What is this deal?
Well, you have to understand that Israel is a parliamentary democracy. And because we're a parliamentary democracy, it's not a presidential system where you will elect the candidate you want, and that candidate serves for 4 years. In Israel, the candidate has to piece together a coalition, and he gets the most votes in the election, his party gets the most votes, but then he has to form a governing coalition with other parties. And that happened 3 times. That the 2 leading candidates, the 2 leading parties were deadlocked. And in this 3rd election, yes, there was a virtual deadlock again, but this time Netanyahu decided that he would form a unity coalition, that he would reach out to the left of center candidate, and they would form a coalition together. They would form a government together. So it's kind of analogous to Donald Trump and Joe Biden forming a government, a governing coalition together, with Trump, say, as president and Biden as vice president. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen, but it has happened in Israel, and that's what we're dealing with right now. Netanyahu is the prime minister, Gantz is the vice premier, and they're going to have to work together for 18 months with Netanyahu as prime minister, and then the next 18 months with Gantz as prime minister.
Okay, and that's just going to automatically happen after 18 months? Netanyahu will step down, and will they reverse the roles? Is that how that's going to work?
That is how it's going to work, unless there are 2 variables that could happen. One is that Netanyahu is undergoing a corruption trial, which is starting this coming week.
Well, let me ask you about that, because that was going to be my next question. How can he lead as prime minister? I mean, he's not just accused, he's been indicted.
That's absolutely correct.
So how can he, on a practical level, how can he lead politically?
Well, practical level is that you don't go to court every single day. There's going to be a hearing on Sunday. That will be the first. And then you have a couple of months in between. The lawyers have to bring forth documents, and then they start to hear from witnesses. Prime Minister doesn't have to be present every single minute of the trial, and chances are that the trial will take a good year or maybe even longer. So so we believe that you're innocent until proven guilty. And we believe with a vengeance, and so according to Israeli law, the prime minister is allowed to be elected and to serve.
Okay, certainly, certainly the laws in Israel mirror some of the laws here in the United States. Innocent until proven guilty. He has denied all of the allegations, but on a practical level, with the public, do they have the trust of a prime minister? I mean, he's charged with it's corruption, fraud, accepting bribes. I mean, these are deceptive potential crimes that he's accused of, at least. How does the public put their trust in a leader who is indicted on something and going to trial on something like that?
Well, the question is whether the people really believe that he's guilty, and whether the people really believe that exchanging political favors for favorable media coverage is considered bribery. And there are some, including some very well-known American jurists who say, well, that's not considered bribery. Bribery, you have to take money. And there was no one's even accusing him of that. He's being accused of asking for favorable media coverage, and in return, passing some legislation that particular individual wanted. The individual who gave the favorable media coverage or was possibly going to give favorable media coverage. So, look, we just had an election. Netanyahu got the most votes. Obviously, the public isn't sold on this.
Okay. Let's turn to the actual governing right now. I mean, you now have the unity government. You have a coalition there. The government's now been put into place. You have an agreement between Gantz and Netanyahu. There is a potential, at least a proposal, for a peace plan with the Palestinians, and that's come from partially the United States proposal that favors Israel. Is that something that the public is supporting?
Well, the public seems to be supporting one part of this peace plan.
Okay.
According to this peace plan, Israel is given 30%. Israel can declare sovereignty even in the coming months over 30% of Judea and Samaria. Now, just so your viewers will know, Judea is the region south of Jerusalem, Samaria is the region north of Jerusalem, and together they comprise what is known to much of the world as the West Bank. Mm-hmm. And so these are the disputed areas that Israel recaptured in the Six-Day War in 1967, and it was actually today is Jerusalem Day here in Israel, where we commemorate the recapturing of Jerusalem in the Six-Day War. Jerusalem is the ancient capital of Israel, and it lies right in between Judea and Samaria. So the so-called West Bank is really Israeli historical territory, but it's under dispute. We understand that, and according to the Trump plan, Israel can declare its sovereignty over 30% of Judea and Samaria, and then for 4 years, Israel is not allowed to build outside of that 30% of Judea and Samaria for the next 4 years.
Okay, so and part of that plan also strips some of the Palestinians living in that area of their citizenship. Is that correct?
No, they don't have citizenship.
Okay.
Because these are disputed territories, they have never been given any citizenship, and they have not been given citizenship by their own governing authority, which is called the Palestinian Authority, which is basically a dictatorship. They've never had free and fair elections, so they're basically non-citizens until this whole thing is resolved.
Okay, does this have any chance to come to an agreement with the Palestinians and its leadership?
Well, I'll tell you, they have been saying since Trump came out with this plan, the Palestinians have been saying that Trump is a dog, that calling him all kinds of ridiculous names. They say that they will have nothing to do with the United States. They will have nothing to do with Israel. And the problem is that it's not a matter of Trump, and in my book, Trump and the Jews, I explained the whole history of Trump, but I also explained a lot about the peace process. This so-called peace process has been going on for some 30 years. And the only thing that's sure about the peace process is that it doesn't work because the so-called Palestinians really don't want to negotiate. They don't want to sit with Israel. They want to drive the Jews into the sea. That's what they say when they speak in Arabic. No, it really doesn't have a chance of working as far as if the clause in the plan of giving the Palestinians their own country, if that plan is carried out, it's not going to work because what they call their own country means a country with a military, a country that is in the heartland of Israel, and that they can use as a base to attack Israel from. That's not something that we can ever allow.
Okay. And if there is an agreement and an implementation of this peace plan, any time frame of that?
Sure. Well, now that there's a government in Israel, according to President Trump and his assistants, like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Israel can declare its sovereignty within the next few months over Judea and Samaria. And that can be done unilaterally in cooperation with the United States. We don't have to wait anymore for Mahmoud Abbas and his Palestinian Terrorist Authority to say that it's okay, or to say that they'll negotiate with us. So that's most likely going to be done in the next few months. And then in the next 4 years, the hope is that they will finally agree to sit down with us and have a discussion about what could possibly work here. But first, they're going to have to stop giving financial payments every month to the families of terrorists who are in Israeli jails. And you know, that's something that they're refusing to do up until this point. Mahmoud Abbas had 2 of his terrorists shoot and wound me and my 3-year-old son some years back. That was about 18 years ago. Those terrorists are still in Israeli jail, and they are still receiving salaries from the Palestinian Authority. So the Trump plan is actually groundbreaking, because it says that you can't have negotiations with people who are paying terrorists to kill you. And, you know, basic common sense. I don't think any American would approve of having peace negotiations with people who are standing there with a gun to your head. So, yeah, that's basically what I think of the plan. I think it breaks some ground, because it gives Israel the right to declare sovereignty over parts of Judea and Samaria.
Okay. Well, David Rubin, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations to Israel on forming this unity coalition between Netanyahu and Benny Gantz. And congratulations on your book, Trump and the Jews. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.